Why do we diagnose? Why do we, quote, label, unquote, people? In fact, many of us don't like the idea of being defined or labeled by our weakest link, as it were. Well, let me tell you the history of this. First, in medicine, the goal of diagnosis was such that if you had a problem in one part of the country or world and someone else had the same problem, the physicians or mental health professionals attempting to understand your problem would use the same definitions. And this is a noble reason to create diagnoses. But let's talk about the use of mental health or developmental diagnoses in children over the last 50 years or so. There was a time when these diagnoses were used for two reasons. One, to help you, to decide what means or methods might best assist you. If I have only one treatment, I don't need a diagnosis. I just give it to everyone. But if I have a choice of treatments, then a diagnosis helps me choose. Two, the diagnosis compares you to other people with the same problem, assuming that I've compared you appropriately, and tells me about what might help you over time, because those who've come before you with the diagnosis have been followed and studied such that I know what may help you and what may not help you. 30 or 40 years ago, the diagnosis came after the person. For example, we might say the child with a learning disability or the child with depression. In the last 20 or 30 years, however, the use of diagnoses have been co-opted. Sure, the two things I just mentioned are important, but what has become more important is the use of a diagnosis as an eligibility determination, as a threshold that your child must cross in order to receive services at school, to be qualified for a certain kind of treatment or medication. And we've gone from referring to the child as the child with a learning disability or the child with depression to now saying the depressed child or the learning disabled child. And I don't think this is such a subtle difference. I think this is a very significant difference when we put the liability of the person in front of the person. What we've forgotten is that all children share qualities with the general population and qualities that are unique to them. And in the middle are these diagnostic groups. We identify children by certain criteria or liabilities. And what we've forgotten is that what children share with everyone, with all kids, and what children possess that are unique to them are much better predictors of what will happen to them over time than these diagnostic labels. And these diagnostic labels have now become eligibility determinants, such that when a child becomes eligible, we now see the child as a Stepford wife. Remember the movie? The wives were all perfect. They were all the same because they were all robots. We now assume that once a child receives a diagnosis, that child, he or she, is exactly the same as every other child with a diagnosis. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And we've come to appreciate that while treatments for these diagnoses, whether psychiatric medications or counseling or educational support, are valuable to manage symptoms and assist the child, in and of themselves, they're insufficient for what we as parents seek. We seek a better life for our child, a happy outcome and a happy future. Parents come to see me not because they're so much concerned about the present, they're concerned about how the present may affect the future. So I'm here to tell you that while diagnoses are important, I am concerned about how they're being used today, and I am concerned about how we fail to appreciate the true value of these diagnoses in helping us make decisions about treatment, and even more importantly, understanding how children who came before yours with these diagnoses managed to transition successfully into adult life. This is Dr. Sam Goldstein for Common Sense Science.